at 7, it was the same guy. I struggle. I'm 52. I struggle sometimes on Friday nights, like sitting through a game, like trying not to yawn after you've worked, and
Yeah.
but he was just always up. And it was just he was he was personable with everybody. He was nice to everybody, which not everybody is in the world, Matt. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, right. I
But
know.
he was someone that just was the life of a party. I mean, he was someone you wanted to be with, and he was, he did it all: TV, radio, and newspaper. He did it
Mm.
all here in the Quad Cities. Then he spent some time in Green Bay too. But everyone knew who he was. That was somebody that everyone knew who Jim Albrecht was.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, Pete, where
Yeah,
like he did all of those things in different ways. He did TV when it came
yeah,
to like a sportscast, but then he also did the according to Jim at WQAD later, where it was just opinion. He in the
yeah,
mornings, like
yeah.
we had Bill Horrell on Friday, and he's like, you never knew where he stood, whether it was left or right when it came to a certain issue,
Yeah.
because he was just talking. And
Oh,
my big thing, and I'll ask you, I asked Bill, and I don't want to know if you, I mean, I'm sure you maybe saw a bad day, maybe, but I've never seen him in a bad mood. Was Jim Albrecht
yeah,
ever in a bad
yeah.
mood?
I saw him get kicked once. It was after a Steamwheeler game. It was that weird game. I think Rich Ingold was the coach. They lost the game. The other team tried a field goal. It bounced off the bottom of the netting and bounced a couple times into the kicking team's player who was running down the field, just fell right in his gut, and he ran the end zone. As the time went out and the other team won, I think it was Green Bay or somebody. I remember like 15, 20 minutes were off the air, and we were like the Steelers were like a heavy favorite in that playoff game,
Yeah.
and he took his paperwork, and he just threw them in the air like he was ticked off that they lost. That was really the only time that I'll tell you another week. He was in 2001. I would usually get into work about 7:50 or so at the old Radio Group building on East Kimberly Road, and so I was there one morning. There was a newspaper. I grabbed it, looked through it. I was about to put it back, and Albrecht came in our sales room, and I guess he was on a break, and he goes, "Dude, another plane hit the other tower." And I turned over and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh,
And he goes,
wow.
"Come here, look." And I went into the WC newsroom, and it was September 11th.
Oh,
He
wow.
was the one that told me about
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was just, and like we've talked about for a week now, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. People are wondering. It's a legacy where, in my opinion, and it wasn't just because of the accomplishments on the air and in the media. It was the human being he was out of it. And like I've
it.
always said, I've had great mentors, and Jim was one of them from afar, always helpful, always needing to if I ever need anything, he was always ready and willing to do it. So, but like I said, always encouraging. He was always that guy that was like, Daz, I saw this interview, you
Yeah,
killed it. And I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to say that, but he
yeah.
would. And that's the cool part about Jim Albrecht.
Yeah. So listen to this one. So my brother passed away, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago. He'd been seeing someone, Jen, in Columbus. She now lives up in northern Ohio, outside of Cleveland. And when Jim would go, sometimes he went to Columbus with the Hawkeye basketball team, and all three of them would get together. And so they got to know each other well. And then my brother passes away, and then he still continued to check in on Jen.
It's amazing.
He had a conversation with her Sunday about the Ohio State Indiana game,
Wow.
just checking in. Hey, and then 2 days later. So yes, I'm aware of the type of person he was, and he was a good person. I saw it firsthand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pete Ivanic joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. We're going to talk about the shootout. I wanted to talk about Jim Albrecht, and I know you're somebody who
Sure.
knew him very, very well. But the shootout itself, 31 years. And
Yeah,
you 23-ish is what we're thinking for
somewhere
you.
around there.
Um,
Yeah, I can recall. Here's how I got started. So I was working in radio, and one of my managers was Scott Bidding. His son Nick was on Larry Schulte's basketball. Were you same age
yes.
as? Are
Yeah.
you okay?
Close. Not the
So
same age,
and
but
then
yeah, the
okay,
biddings. Yeah.
and then on the team also was the Jacobs kid. His dad's name was Randy Jacobs, RJ.
Alec.
I can't remember. Okay, so and he was a good big player. So they were involved in the shootout. Larry Schulte talks with Randy Jacobs, and hey, we're losing money. We're having to pay for these 3 or 4 games at the old Mark, and what can we do? And so Randy Jacobs gets a hold of Scott Bidding, and Scott called me into his office and said, "Hey, I just got a call. Can we do anything with that shootout thing?" And I was like, "Probably." And we got a couple of meetings together when we figure out a way that we could, at the radio group, could sell sponsorships for the event, and we ended up giving half of our proceeds back to the schools. And there was other sponsorships involved, and there were other business people involved. And then Randy had the great idea to go non for profit. So we've been a 501c3 for a long time, probably 25 years, probably. But that was kind of the crux of me going in. And I was kind of like the media person, like, hey, I'll let the media, I'll do this. And then we're going to do the radio games, but I'll let all the newspaper people and TV people, and we'll schedule this and I'll do that news conference. And then one by one, a lot of those business leaders like Randy Jacobs, like Carrie Beyer, um, and then the athletic directors, some of those athletic directors at the time, like Mike Tracy and Mark Brooks, some of those guys were helping a lot. And then one by one, they each kind of fell off. And I remember being at a meeting, maybe at Augie, and like all of them, and said, "Well, this is probably going to be the last year we're doing." And I was the only guy standing at the table, and they're looking at me, and I just went, "Oh, I could probably try it."
Yeah.
And luckily I got a lot of help from like Scott Bidding and then Bill Horrells, kind of, once we got going with him and he was hired, and then he, it was great for him. So that's kind of where I and then got started with it. Just by chance, just getting in some meetings and then being kind of the last guy standing, and just kind of running with it myself.
Yeah, and obviously now here we are. This is your last year doing it. Before we talk about
Yep.
why and the transition over, and it's going to be a great transition because Gary Thrapp is a fantastic human being as well. I guess you look at it 31 years, and you mentioned like this is going to be the last year. I mean, I remember times that we were talking about like the mark is too big and it moved to
Yeah.
Augustana and it's got its stability there.
Yeah.
Were there the
Yeah.
trying times with this shootout? Because in my intro, I talked about how it's a
Yeah.
Quad City tradition for 3 decades. There wasn't.
Yeah.
There was times that it was like I don't know if we're going to get this to
It was
continue to move on.
it was on shaky ground. It was on shaky ground until probably maybe a few years after I kind of got it going, and then I became, it's a lot easier when sometimes when you just have one person and rather than like 12 on your committee. And so that kind of just streamlining it like that made it a lot easier, where I just kind of called the shots. And luckily all of the coaches in the event and maybe the athletic directors just kind of went with me to the point where now I'm a little trusted. I guess I kind of earned that trust over the years. So I think, some of it for me was just getting it streamlined. And the bottom line is trying to provide a good, safe place for everyone to come and watch these teams that normally don't get to play against each other, because we have two states that work differently as far as the
Yeah.
athletic association. And that's really why we have the event. That and the fact that the mark was built in 93 and the Illinois side coaches wanted to play a regular season game there before the super sectional, which was played, it rotated between Moline and Rockford.
Yeah.
Um, so the Illinois guys wanted a game there, and that's really how all this got going with those original 6 coaches.
It started in 1994, and I was joking with you before we started.
Yeah.
I think I was a freshman or a sophomore at Alleman. I wasn't
Mhm.
the daunting young stud that you see in front of me, or in front of you.
Sure. I get that.
It was a little iffy, but your thoughts when it started in 1994? What's your earliest
Yeah.
memories of it? You probably covered it
Yeah.
for the newspaper,
I
probably.
did. Yeah, there was one day I was just looking because I updated. You got an email earlier of all of our individual stats, all the scores. I updated a little bit after last year's event, but I didn't update it, some of the individual stuff on it. So I got that done today and sent it out to our media friends. And I was looking at, I think 1998 was the first year. I was a correspondent for the Times. I was getting paid $25 per story.
I was gonna say probably big
And I
money.
was, yeah, yeah. And then, oh, I remember when it went to 35. I remember calling someone, they're like, thank you, 35. But so I covered, I just looked at the score. I thought it was Alleman and West, but it was Geneseo and West. The final score was 30-27. It was the worst basketball game I've ever seen. The kids there had a problem shooting the basketball. The Final Four is a lot like this, where you don't have a wall behind you and you're not used to that in the arenas like Vibrant Arena. It's harder to shoot. Again, Final Fours, usually the field goal percentage or the 3-point percentage is very low because the kids just can't shoot. They're not used to the setting. But that was one of the worst games I've ever seen. And then that night, I agreed to sit in with Mark Gellerman for the Rock Island broadcast. They were taking on Assumption, and Assumption beat Rock Island kind of handily by like 10 or 12 points. And Mark just couldn't get over the fact that Rock Island had lost to this Iowa team. The whole time he's like, I can't believe they play this Iowa style of basketball. The
Yeah,
whole night. I had to keep reminding it. They did win a state title last year, Mark, and they ended up winning a state title that year too. But those are two like early memories, and then other things over the years I'm gonna miss, or like hang out with you, or someone like Frank Dexter, like just, or when Duncan Reed was alive, he would just come in and we have for media members, for referees, for people that are working there all day, we have a little hospitality room, a press room, where there's hot food and a place to work, and a place to edit. The photographers put their stuff
Pete, it's
there.
it's one of the best hospitality rooms in the.
Yeah, yeah,
Jay and I
yeah,
talked about this yesterday or Tuesday on the show. It's really good. Hats off to you.
yeah. Yeah, I always did know how to throw a good party back to my high school and college days, and so that was just an extension of kind of me being like a party planner.
Yeah,
But I saw a need there, and then there's some other things that I added too. Like I don't know if all the kids get to go home and have a hot meal after the game. I don't know. So I had an idea like 15 years ago. What if I were to get someone to pay for pizzas for the kids after the game?
yeah,
So Rock Island Happy Joe's gives us a good rate on some large pies, and um, Bob Marriott, good buddy of mine over at Group O. I email him every December. Hey, can you take care of the pizzas this year? Yes, we would love to do.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the kids get fed after the game. I don't know. I know on road trips, like if our kids going to Quincy or Dubuque or something, yeah, they probably get something, or maybe they take something along. But to have something like that is just a nice little. Hey, this is not just a normal game.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I've heard before, the coaches, not every coach makes it to state. Um, so a hospitality room like that, where you can get something to get a pop and get a hot meal before and after the game, makes a difference. It makes them feel like it's a little bit more of a big time event.
no, absolutely. Pete Ivanic joining me right now, talking about the MercyOne Geneseis Shootout coming up. 23 years ish, you doing it. Before we
Yeah,
talk
somewhere
about
around there.
why you're like talking about the transition in a second, but you mentioned like back when you first did it, it was like, what you mean? Like, and this Iowa team is beating a team from Illinois.
Yeah.
And I think when it
Yeah.
started, we all looked at like, oh wow, like yeah, this will be cute, but like the Illinois side knows how to play basketball, and the Iowa side can't hang with them. If
Yep.
your records are correct, which I'm sure they are, the
Yeah.
Iowa side has won 9 straight seasons.
Yeah.
The last time the Illinois side won the event is 2014. It's been a while.
Hmm.
That's interesting to see, because I think there's that perception out there that the basketball is on the Illinois side of the river. And I'm not saying the Illinois side of the river is bad, but did you see that? Did you see the Iowa side catch up, if that makes any sense, and maybe
Oh,
even
I think
surpass?
they did. Yeah. Yeah. And I was, growing up in Moline in the 80s and into the 90s. Western Big Six, it's a basketball conference.
Yeah.
Like it's a night in and night out. And I know the MAC coaches will want to say that too, but like back then, like you weren't beating Rock Island, you weren't beating Moline. You couldn't do it. And I think, there's a couple things within that too, because the event started with 3 games and now we're at 7. So Iowa gets more,
Mm.
they've gotten more chances over the years.
Yep.
So I think that's why that number might be,
In the Iowa
but
side,
it is eye popping.
Illinois top heavy, if it makes any sense. Like, and I'm an
Yeah.
Alleman guy, so we're both Alleman guys. We can,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a struggle at Alleman for a few years, so like that helps.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting a
Yes.
one game off the bat, like that's one of those things that to
Yeah.
help. And other teams have
Yeah.
struggled as well. So, do you have a moment as the director? What are you? What's your title? President of the world of the shootout?
Yeah, chairman of the board, executive
Czar?
director, grand poobah, czar's a good one. Yeah.
Do you have a
yeah.
moment where you sat back and went, "Wow, look at this place"? Like, was there?
So
I mean,
there
we had
were-
some great
yeah, there
games.
was- the one game that really sticks out is the Geneseo Central double or triple overtime game. It's got to be 10, 12
Was
years
that
ago.
Tyler Storm versus Hal Bateman and L.A.
Al
Pomeroy?
Bateman, and then L.A. Pomeroy. Tavian Pomeroy was a freshman.
Yeah,
One of the Kenyans, the older Kenyan, Zach.
Zach,
Is it
yep.
Zach
Not Trevor,
was
but
I-
Zach.
no, Trevor was younger. Yeah,
Yep,
Trevor was
Zach.
probably still in junior high. I think it was
Yeah.
Zach. And I can't remember who the other starter for Central would have been that year. But that was there were dunks, like, it was alley oops, like you didn't know who. Those are two of the best teams that we've had play
Yeah.
against. I mean, that was a madhouse. And then the Hardings. I saw the Hardings 8 times.
Yeah.
Chase and Randall 4 times.
Yes.
When Chasen was a senior, Tommy Hammerker? No. Who was his coach at Stanford?
I
It
know
wasn't Tommy Hammerker,
Dawkins.
it was,
Dawkins. Johnny Dawkins.
Johnny Dawkins. Yeah, he walked in with his assistant, and I think Bill called him Tommy Hammerker when he came in the game.
Attaboy, Billy.
Yeah, and I'm leading Johnny Dawkins around, and I told him, look, my dad went to high school with Coach K in Chicago at Weber High. It's not open anymore, and I don't know how old. I know it was similar in the early '60s, And when I said that, he just, he lit up, and then I knew, hey, do you want something? They flew into Northwestern to play, and then he and an assistant drove to Rock Island just to see him play. They like to see the kids play once or twice in person, but he had already signed it. So that was pretty cool. And actually, I kind of make it a point I see those D3, D2 coaches, hanging out, or the NAI, I can see, because they're all wearing the suits and they all have the notepads and stuff. And so I've always tried to go up to those guys. Hey, go get yourself a meal. There's some pop up there if you're thirsty. Like, thanks for coming. Who are you looking at? Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, it's such a fun event. Pete Ivanic joining us right now. Wrapping things up, I want to talk about why now? You're 52, you're young, you're in your prime, all those kind of stuff. I don't know about that, but obviously an exciting transition with Gary Thrapp taking over. Talk about the decision process, and it's something that I'm sure you'll stay involved in and you'll miss. Take me through the thought process.
So my life kind of changed here. I met someone a few years ago, and Margie, and she happened to live in Muscatine and had a house there, and we're engaged now, and I've been here almost a year, and there were a couple of things that were probably just going to have to come off of my table, and this was the big one.
Yeah.
Another one for me, I'd done the St. Ambrose public address announcing at their football games for 26 years, and I gave that up. I let them know in August, look, I just, I can't. And for me, that was more like I can't be at a place, I can't drive 45 minutes to Davenport for a game on Friday night and then drive home.
And
And
then do it
then
again.
I'm not the type, yeah, and then get up at 9 a.m. to be up there at 10. Uh, I need rest. I
Yeah.
rely on sleep.
Yeah.
And I can't just when I get home at 10 or 10:30 from a basketball or a football game, I don't just fall asleep at 50. It's like you have to calm down.
I'm
You
that
have to
same way.
like,
Hey, you're talking to a
yeah,
guy who
yeah,
got off
yeah,
set at 10:45 every night and was like, let's go. Let's rock and roll. So I'm the
yeah,
exact same.
yeah,
Gary Thrapp is a fantastic human being. Kind of talk about that
yeah.
because I think it's a great
Okay.
transition and all those kind of things with where it's at and what he can continue you've built.
Sure. I've known Gary for a long time. I've had kids. We've had kids that have competed and at over at Beyond the Baseline at the
Oh
old
yeah.
Merritt Crest, and I've called his kids' games, his daughter and his son playing sports at Assumption over the years, and um, he's a genuine individual that cares about the youth of the Quad Cities, and that's why he has that facility. That's why he bought it, and that's why he runs it. And so over the last, all summer, I was just like, I if I'm gonna get out of this, I need to find. I just can't like send an email to all the coaches and
Yeah.
ADs.
See ya.
Hey, I'm done. Good luck.
Yep.
So I literally then like in September, October, I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And for some reason, his name, popped into my head, and then I thought about it for a week, and then I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm looking to not do this anymore. There's nothing wrong with the event. Um, is this something you might be interested in taking over and you doing it?" And then he immediately said yes. And so I went, great. And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna set up the event this year like I always do, and then you're going to be there that day and you're going to run it. And so my plan is to not really be there this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Gary experience. I'm going to, again, he's been copied on every email I've sent, and we talk on the phone a lot. Um, and it's not like he needs instruction on how to run a all day long
Yeah.
basketball event.
That's this
Uh,
ballpark.
so, so hopefully he'll be able to, take everything that we built up and maybe he can do some more stuff with it. I don't think he's looking to expand it to more teams or two locations or a different day or anything like that. I think from our initial conversations, it's probably going to remain just like how it is now,
If it ain't broke,
at
don't
least
fix
with the
it,
teams.
Petey. If it
Right, at
ain't
least
broke,
with
don't
the
fix it.
teams.
Yeah.
So, but I couldn't have done. I really, I couldn't have gotten anybody better. I mean, he's the guy. He's so nice about it. He's very soft spoken, and then at once he like turns it on,
Yeah.
and you see him kind of come to life, and then he kind of fades back, and then when he need he comes to life again. He's
Yeah.
almost like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas toy or something. You push the button and there he is. But he's been wonderful, and
Yeah.
I also think he knows. I think he knows that the area cares about the event.
Yeah.
That's why we have people come. That's why the coaches like it. So I think he's the perfect person to pass it on to.
He'll do a great job, Petey. You've done so
Yeah,
much for this. We
thank you.
appreciate everybody appreciates what you get, and even just the press conferences. Like we didn't even do those until like those came about. It's the little
Yeah,
things that you mentioned, like the pizza
yeah,
by itself is like,
yeah,
oh, that's nice. But when you kind of add everything here and there, it
yeah.
becomes you'll
Mhm.
have people, and you know this. You'll have these guys that'll get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then
10
you'll look
o'clock.
at like
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night and they're walking out and they've watched the day
Yep.
basketball. How people
Yep.
like the event this year, we talked about that. You can check it out all online. It's how much to get in?
$5. I haven't
I knew
changed
it
that.
was, but
Yeah.
like, with everything, like it used to be $5 foot long, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Now it's
Yeah.
like $12 foot long. So like, I wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
so I didn't look
Yeah.
bad, but still $5.
No.
Hey, make
Yeah.
sure you
We've
tell
talked about changing things. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, make sure you tell Gary that off the air is got a media credential because I'll be there and
Okay.
I'll be in that hospitality room. Don't you? You'll be there
There
at
you go.
least
Well, yeah,
one. Will you not be
yeah,
there at all
I
on Saturday?
probably no. I'll probably end up like showing up like before the first game just to make sure it's all
Yeah,
if
yeah.
he's okay, and then I'll probably just say, and one of the reasons like I don't want to be there and just being stopped every 50 feet and going, hey, thanks for everything, thank you, and then
No,
shaking.
that's
I
why
would
we're
just
doing this. So
that
when you see
yeah, and which
Pete,
is
you can.
great.
No, you deserve your flowers. You deserve your
Well,
flowers.
that's maybe at time, but I actually thought that me not being there would be better for Gary, just so he could
That's
make some
That's
decisions on
actually
the fly, if
that's a
anything.
present
You
for
know,
everybody. You not being around is
yes,
actually a Christmas present. Hey, before I let you go, because we got to go, but thumbs up, thumbs down on these few questions. I've been asking everybody.
yeah.
Christmas music, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay, so I have
That's not a
five, six,
thumbs
I have
up or a
seven,
thumbs down.
I have okay, I have seven guitars in this room, and before that, you and I are on, I was going over the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Christmas, Vince Guaraldi thing.
Oh
Um,
wow!
so right
Can
now
you
is
do it
the
for
only
us?
time that
Can you
no,
seriously?
don't, no,
Pete,
no, no.
Pete.
You
Okay.
know why? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because I never play well in front of people.
Well,
I
it's
can't. I
just you
have
and
10
me.
guitars in this
It's
house, and
just you and me and a
I
couple thousand
cannot.
people.
No, well,
Like it's no big
I
deal.
wouldn't know it because I just looked at it online and was like, okay.
I love
But
it.
like Saturday, I'll probably sit down more. So Christmas usually it's a no, but right now it's a yes.
Okay, I like it. That was the longest thumbs up, thumbs down ever. Eggnog, eggnog, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Nah, I've had it. I've had it. Thumbs down.
I
I don't
agree
like
with
it.
that. I agree.
Yeah,
Christmas cookies is obviously, I hope, a thumbs up. And if so, what's the
yeah.
one you have to have?
I love any type of holiday cookies, any type of baking. Um, I'm maybe I'm plain and simple, but just give me a chocolate chip cookie and
Yeah,
I'm perfectly fine and
I love
happy.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. Favorite holiday movie before I go? Last one. Favorite holiday movie. Do you like them or do you like, no thanks, don't worry about it?
Yeah. No, I'm okay with them. I'm not big in my older days. I don't watch much movies anymore.
Me
I
neither.
really like binging TV stuff, like series. But I will go with the safe pick in It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, that's a nice way to end it. So, hey, Pete, congratulations. You killed it for
Thank you.
23-ish years. And we'll catch up
Thank
again
you.
real soon. Have a great Christmas, my man. We'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right, that is Pete Ivanic getting ready for his last, not the last, but his last Genesis, MercyOne Geneseis Shootout coming up this Saturday. Get down there, $5 to watch 7 basketball games, be there all day, all those kind of things. And obviously, it's a great celebration of high school basketball right here in the Quad Cities. We got more to get to on OTA. We'll be right back. Welcome back to OTA here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. A fun show today. A lot to get to. Tom Kakert kicked things off talking a little Iowa basketball and football. It was a really fun second segment. UT's Nick Welch and Moline's Mike Morrissey joining us to talk all about the changes in high school football in Illinois and expanded postseason, all of those kind of things. One school voted yes, is in United Township. No was the vote for Moline, but both have a common, they don't want districts. So both okay with this because it kind of pushes that away, which makes sense. Go back, check it out. Really good stuff from both head coaches here on OTA. And then Pete Ivanic, last segment, just talking about the MercyOne Geneseis Shootout coming up this Saturday. Get down to the Carver Center. $5 is all the basketball, 7 games, everything you want. Go there at 10 a.m., stay till 10 p.m. Enjoy a great day of basketball at the Carver Center. And congrats to Pete kind of stepping down after over 2 decades of doing it. Gary Thrapp taking over next season, kind of guiding that event as well. Don't forget to get your next guest picks in. They are, the link is out there on my social media. Get them in. You have until Saturday, because there's some college games again this week. Saturday at 11 a.m. We aren't doing the, Alabama, Oklahoma game on Friday. That's not part of it, but get your stuff in and get signed up and win great food from Hungry Hobo as well. And of course, last but not least, if you enjoyed the high school football talk with Nick Welch and Mike Morrissey, our friends at View from the West, Mitch and Greg, are going to be putting out a new episode of that podcast coming out later today. So be on the lookout for that as they continue to talk about the changes. A lot of high school football news here on December 18th, which is unexpected, but a lot of fun. Scheduling wise, no show tomorrow. I have Christmas stuff to get caught up with, kids and everything else. So no show tomorrow. We will have one show next week at least, maybe two. We got to figure some things out, but obviously the holidays starting next week and Wednesday's Christmas Eve. So maybe Monday, Tuesday, definitely Tuesday. And then we'll be off for the rest of the week, except for the rest of the week. And then we'll be back a little bit the following week as well. So holiday times, make sure you're subscribed. So, you just click on the link and it pops up there. If you subscribe, it'll pop up, let you know when we're on YouTube and everywhere else. So thank you guys again for watching today's show. Go check out the shows from the rest of the week, and we will see you guys back here again next week.